Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're unpacking a classic, deeply emotional historical narrative that has literally captivated people for centuries. It's a profound story about encountering sheer terror, grappling with our own human limitations, and ultimately overcoming fear through an incredible demonstration of authority and peace. We're going to break down the events on the Sea of Galilee using our sources to understand exactly what happened that night, and more importantly, what we can take away from it today.
Who is this man that even the wind and the sea obey him? I really want you to hold on to that thought. It's the central mystery we're exploring in this explainer. This is a question born out of absolute awe and utter shock. To understand exactly why this was asked and why it matters so much to us right now, we need to rewind to the very beginning of the story.
We'll start our chronological arc right here in Part 1, Setting Sail at Sunset.
Every great crucible narrative has a starting point, right? And what makes this one so striking is that it begins in a state of absolute, picturesque tranquility. Before the crisis hits, there's just perfect calm. Our sources paint this beautiful, highly sensory picture of the departure. It's evening on the Sea of Galilee. The sun is setting, casting this gorgeous light where the gentle waves are shimmering and dancing like gold, reflecting the sky. Jesus and his disciples step into a fishing boat. Now, Jesus is physically exhausted. He spent the entire day teaching massive crowds of people. So tired but totally at peace, he tells his disciples, "Let us go across to the other side of the lake." The disciples nod, push the boat away from the shore, and begin rowing. A cool, quiet breeze fills the sails. Everything feels incredibly safe. Jesus lies down at the very back of the boat, and pretty quickly, he falls fast asleep. It's just the perfect, peaceful end to a very long day.
But, as you might guess, that perfect safety doesn't last. The peaceful evening disappears entirely as we enter Part 2, The Raging Storm.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because it escalates terrifyingly fast. First, you just have that cool breeze. But suddenly, the wind begins to howl. Dark clouds completely cover the sky, rolling in and blocking out whatever light was left. Lightning aggressively flashes across the horizon. And then, the towering waves start crashing against the boat. These waves are huge. Our sources actually note they're taller than the men themselves. Water is splashing everywhere, pouring inside. The disciples are desperately shouting over the thunder, just trying to keep the boat steady as it rocks violently. It is sheer, escalating panic. And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute absurdity of the moment. On the left side, we have total chaos. Howling wind, waves taller than the sailors, a violently rocking boat that is literally filling with water. The disciples are terrified, shouting to one another that they've never seen a storm this fierce. And on the right side, there's Jesus, still lying at the back of the boat, fast asleep, resting in perfect peace right through the middle of the absolute chaos. Fear completely overtakes the disciples. They are frantic. They rush to the back of the boat, shaking him awake. You can just hear the desperate, shouting panic in Peter's voice when he cries out, "Lord, don't you care that we're about to drown?" It's a completely raw human reaction, isn't it? The boat's sinking, the water's pouring in, and they're looking at Jesus with desperate faces, convinced that this is the absolute end.
This brings us to a dramatic turning point. Part 3, Peace, Be Still.
Amidst the deafening roar of the storm, Jesus stands up. The wind is finally whipping his clothes, but his face is filled with perfect peace. He looks out at the raging sea. He raises his hand and with absolute authority speaks just 3 words: "Peace, be still." Notice how the frantic, panicked energy completely shifts with this simple, punchy command. There's no shouting match with the storm, just a quiet, absolute command from the Creator to his creation. Now, let's walk through the timeline of what happens next, because the immediacy of this is staggering. At exactly 0 seconds, the moment those words leave his mouth, the howling wind stops instantly. It just dies. By 5 seconds, those towering, crashing waves completely smooth out. By 15 seconds, the dark, menacing clouds vanish, revealing a vast sky filled with brilliant stars. And by 30 seconds total absolute silence covers the sea. The violent, chaotic environment is completely gone, replaced by a calm, moonlit stillness.
Which leads us to the aftermath, and really, the core lesson of our explainer today. Part 4, Faith in the Storm.
The storm outside has vanished, but the impact of what just happened is deeply settling into the disciples. They aren't cheering. They're standing completely frozen, staring in amazement with wide eyes and pounding hearts. Jesus turns toward them in the quietness of the boat. He looks at them gently and asks this piercing question: "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" It's a gentle but incredibly direct question. He isn't scolding them for experiencing a storm. He's asking why they let the storm dictate their reality when he was right there with them. It really prompts us to reflect on our own reactions to the sudden chaos that enters our own lives, you know? The disciples lower their heads. Peter steps forward and offers this incredibly honest admission. Lord, we believe, but fear was stronger than our faith. Man, it is so deeply relatable. It validates how easily our human fear can overwhelm whatever belief we hold during turbulent times. The waves were huge, the water was pouring in, and in that moment of crisis, their fear just spoke louder than their trust. Jesus places his hand on Peter's shoulder and delivers the thematic climax of this entire event. So the crucial point is this definition of faith. Faith is not the absence of storms. It is trusting him in the middle of them. This is the profound shift in perspective. The goal isn't to live a life where the wind never howls or the boat never rocks. The goal is to maintain your trust in the one who commands the wind, even while the waves are crashing right around you.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we apply this historical narrative today. Because the truth is, life storms can feel just as sudden and out of control as that night on Galilee. You might feel like your boat is actively filling with water right now. But the ultimate takeaway of this text is that no storm is greater than his peace. The exact same Jesus who commanded the wind and the sea is still in the boat with you. He hasn't left. It challenges us. When fear inevitably bubbles up, you have a choice to choose trust, because his presence changes absolutely everything.
As the boat continued peacefully across the calm waters under that moonlit sky, the disciples just looked at one another in sheer awe. James softly whispered the question we started with today. Who is this man that even the wind and the sea obey him? It's a question that invites us to look deeper, to recognize the ultimate authority of Jesus, and to leave our fears behind in the quiet wake of his peace. Think about that the next time you face a storm. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking the answers.